Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Cara. Welcome back to Green Heart Glowing. Today's video will be a casual, have some coffee with me while I pull some cards and talk about the energy and anything else that I feel like I want to share, just because these things are all ways that I tune into my intuition, the collective energy, and I hope something here can resonate and help you as well. Talking to a camera is kind of new for me, so check the hair, we're good. Okay, so let's just start with a card. How about that? I'll pull a really cute little angel card. And happy new moon in Leo, by the way. I will talk a little bit about that energy in just a minute. I don't want to rush though, I just want to vibe. Okay. Honesty. That's a great card for right now. And it goes along with this quote that I found that I thought I really should share that, because that feels like something I think a lot of people need to hear. At least I feel like I do. So this quote I saw this morning, it says, my laptop is right here, so I'm reading from that. What people are craving isn't perfection. People aren't longing to be impressed. They're longing to feel like they're home. If you create a space full of love and character and creativity and soul, they'll take off their shoes and curl up with gratitude and rest, no matter how small, no matter how undone, no matter how odd. And that's from Shauna Niequist. And that feels like it goes along with honesty for me. And yeah, the feeling I'm getting for sort of where I'm at anyway, and what is happening with the energy right now, is it seems like there has been a huge like past life leaving in a big way. Like a huge chapter has dropped off in so many people's lives. And right now feels like that time where we're, the feeling of you maybe lose a job or you lose a partner, or something happens to you where that was so much of your identity, that part of you, that a role and identity that you had was so much a part of how you saw yourself and how others saw you and what it meant for who you are. And then that thing leaves, which I feel like a lot of us are going through in a huge way, maybe the biggest that I've ever seen in my life. And it sounds like a lot of people are kind of going through the same thing. But right now there's this feeling of being at the place that is unknown, and many of us are just standing here in that in-between space of, that's the life that I had, and maybe there's a tension of not wanting to let that life go, wanting to keep that life the way that it was. Maybe even in a bigger sense, how much the world has shifted its role, its identity. We're coming up into such a huge shift in how we relate to AI being one of the bigger things coming up, but everything feels like one huge part of who we were is gone, and now we're stepping into what's new, okay? But what does that mean for us to be right here, right now? in this very liminal space that is not yet something concrete. And a lot of like spiritual meditation teachers will talk about this space because this is the space that we're all most uncomfortable with, because there's no ground beneath our feet, and it feels like we always scramble, because somehow it feels like if we can just identify very quickly, like, who are we? What do we do for work? What does our life look like in a way that seems like logical, and we can control that, even though anything can happen at any time, right? There's that principle of impermanence where everything's always changing, nothing stays the same, and yet we want things to always stay the same. And so there can feel very much like a grieving happening right now, a grieving of the old, a panic and struggle to figure out what's the next, what's the new, when that new hasn't come yet. And I just find this card, honesty, I just love these little angel cards. And the quote about, I think what happens is a lot of times when we try then to go for something else, something new, it's a very vulnerable place. It can be really hard to have our lives look messy and not polished, and like maybe we are lost and confused and we don't really know how to make that look pretty and packaged and polished, and so maybe there's a feeling of shame that comes along with the mess of just transition and being human and finding your way, and it doesn't always look, like, I guess we all want it to, which is like we've got it all figured out, everything is perfect, we're good, we're happy, that's where we always try to put our baseline. And life is much messier than that. There's so much juiciness in so many different aspects of life besides just this sort of like happy, shallow, on the surface, like everything's great all the time feeling, where becomes very Instagram, like very like highlight reels type of thing. And then we end up feeling very lost and alone and in shame when we're alone, or at night when we can't sleep, because all these parts of us that aren't that very like superficial on the surface, everything's happy, yes, I'm good, how are you, I'm great, how are you, kind of stuff that we all do. People aren't longing to be impressed, they're longing to feel like they're home. If you create a space full of love and character and creativity and soul, they will take off their shoes and curl up with gratitude and rest. No matter how small, no matter how undone, no matter how odd, what people are craving isn't perfection. And that is such a huge thing to really understand, that there's so much that looks perfect, especially on the internet. Like the internet is the most perfection driven platform of sharing humanity, which, as we now can see, is really causing people to have very bad mental health. And the constant measuring of, oh, that person's life looks so perfect, and their new partner and their new job, or there's more to life than just partner and job. I keep talking about only those things, but this is where my brain is at right now. That feels like the channeling I wanted to share, just all of that together, feeling of, if you're messy right now, good, that's where you should be. There's nothing wrong with that. That's where you incubate and you know, the like seed in the soil space. It's meaningful, and it's worth it to slow down with that space that you're in and allow that to be it, to not even have the next thing in mind. But if it comes, that's great, but that's not what the point of what I'm trying to express here is. To be in the unknown and to get familiar with it and to get comfortable with it, to lean in to the discomfort of it, because the resisting it, the pretending it's not there, the avoiding the grief of losing an old life. I just lost my soul dog of 16 years last month, and so I'm very raw, like in that experience of the grief of what was, and how you know, how bittersweet it is to have these beautiful chapters, hard chapters, complete other lifetimes, but life continues moving on, and there's beauty in all of it. There's beauty in what that was and what that brought and how it changed you and how you grew. There's beauty in the middle space that is the most uncomfortable, where the ground is not solid and we don't know what is next. And that comes with a lot of uncomfortable feelings. And yeah, the new always comes. It always comes without your grasping and without your rushing and forcing. And, you know, taking that time to care for that tenderness and care for that place that really needs your warmth and compassion and slowness, to not cover over it and to not pretend that it's not happening, because when you do all of the avoiding and pretending and, you know, drinking to not feel it and all the ways that we kind of cover over everything, it does delay it. It delays the transformation from happening. It delays the processing and releasing of the feelings. So many times the avoidance is more painful than actually feeling the emotion, and then allowing it to let go of us, and then, you know, moving forward. But it's the fear that stops us. So yeah, there's that transmission for the morning. After all of that, I want to pull a card and just see what message comes up. Thank you guys for all being here. And I'm gonna pull it from Wisdom of the Oracle. I only have a couple of decks. I really only like having minimal things in my space. And these decks have been with me for so long, so this will be what I pull for now. I can't wait till I have a microphone, because my street is very loud and I'm sure you can hear it. What did I just pull that made me laugh? Well, I'll just put these aside right now. Happy. That's funny, because I was just talking about we're always trying to be happy. Oh, universe is hilarious. All right, card 26. Essential meanings: joy and contentment, a sense of fulfillment, feeling that all is well. All right, there's a few descriptions on here, but I want to intuit which one I should read. All right, I'll read the oracle's message. Okay. Your desires are effortlessly fulfilled now. Find joy in the present moment, whatever is happening, and be satisfied with things as they are. You're free from the shackles of longing and able to experience the liberation that comes from actually being happy moment to moment, for you have chosen happiness over yearning for it. Now is the time for feeling joy for the sake of joy and experiencing contentment. None of this is because of something outside yourself. Your happiness is a result of your being at one with Spirit's plan for your life. All is well, the tide is in for now. Enjoy playfully splashing in it. Okay, well that's cute. What I felt really resonated there was to be happy and content in the present moment, right? That's what's always talked about anyway. Be present, be present. I know. I know, and it can feel frustrating to hear that all the time. But yeah, that kind of ties into what I was saying is be happy with the messiness, be happy with the discomfort of what's coming up. But you don't even have to be happy with it, but just be content. Or you don't even have to be content, but just there's an acceptance. When there's an acceptance of the way life is, the struggle stops. The fighting with yourself and with life and reality stops. And there's what they call surrender to acceptance of. And even your body can feel that. Your body can tell when you're bracing, and chronic bracing can actually lead to disease and all different types of, issues that the body stores in order to cope with the emotional landscape that we're struggling to integrate into our lives. Okay, and last thing I want to talk about is today's full moon or new moon in Leo. I do have it pulled up on my laptop just because I struggle without notes, at least for this time. The new moon in Leo is at 2 degrees, and it's directly opposing Pluto in Aquarius, which is also retrograde. Now, I'm a Leo, and I've been having Pluto oppositions all year, and it's been very, very hard, to be honest. There has been a lot of death, a lot of, honestly, death, transformation. Transformation is another word to talk about death. But today's new moon in Leo is opposing Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto is think of Scorpio, like the underworld, the death, the rebirth. Right? The rebirth always comes, but the death does happen. And we're not, as a society, very good at feeling what comes up when death happens, but it's such a natural part of life that it really helps to be more open and accepting of the whole premise of death. And I think that this new moon in Leo can really shine a light on that feeling of the death and rebirth of the old life, the maybe way that the old life was sort of a masking of ourselves, and the putting on a show of happiness and exuberance and maybe things that we weren't actually experiencing internally. And maybe there was an internal conflict happening that now, being opposite Pluto, can help us bring up and work with in a way that helps us become more whole. Because there's always such a disconnect I see from people that have that feel one thing or many things and then show only the good, quote unquote. And that can be from a protection mechanism. It can be because people don't really know how to relate to the deeper shadowy stuff. There's so many reasons, but I'm somebody who's extremely sensitive to that dissonance in people. I read energy, so I can meet a person and immediately I already know what's going on for them internally and energetically. And I've always been like this. It's one of my gifts. But it can be really difficult to exist in this world because so many people are carrying this energy that they're not really conscious of, or maybe they are conscious of, but they're protecting and they don't want to have that felt or known. And of course, that's up to every individual person to either share or not share. But so they put on sort of like the acceptable version of what we're all supposed to be like in society. And when I interact with people, it's very hard for me to interact with this person who's the pretend kind of, or the more protected, or I guess protected version that's not really aligned with what I'm feeling and experiencing. And I've had to learn how to kind of put this to the side so that I can try and interact with them and not feel like it's too much, too overwhelming to the person and also to me, to just say that's not mine to feel, they can feel that, and we can just go over here. And then once you connect with people, a lot of times these two things can start to merge a little bit more. But with this new moon opposing Pluto, that's the kind of feeling that it brings, is where are you living sort of less authentic? Because Leo can be, every sign has a light and a shadow, the duality of our world, the yin and the yang. And Leo has, the warmth and the strength and the boldness and the thing that makes people drawn to them. That can feel really authentic and really safe and just, like you want to be around that person, and maybe you don't know why. But the shadow side of Leo can be very inauthentic, very showman, like putting on different, roles and to get everyone to like them, and being really upset when people don't like them, and coming a lot from superficial things like, looks and money and things like that. It can be really disconnect coming from that place versus coming from the more soulful, more integrated version of Leo. So when we have this new moon happening opposing Pluto, Pluto wants to bring all of this to be seen by you, maybe by people around you. And the Leo new moon can give you the strength and the courage to start really bringing these parts of yourself together and have that be part of the path forward now. Like we talk about the old path that's closing out. Now this new moon in Leo can be a catalyst to begin really merging in with the truth of yourself and how you exist in the world on the inside, and bringing that sort of more to the front so that it can feel like you're a complete self. You don't have to be one way and then turn this part off when you're with people and then turn it back on when you're home, and like all that kind of stuff that we all do in our own ways. So that's mainly what I wanted to talk about with the new moon in Leo. There could be possible power struggles with that, meaning either power struggles within yourself, and then a lot of times what happens is when you begin bringing forward these parts of yourself that you turned down, likely these parts have been turned down because when we're in relationship with people, there can be a feeling of, I don't feel safe with this person, so I'm going to step that part of myself back and just let this part be seen to survive this interaction. And then, of course, what that does is it causes you to shrink, and then you just keep shrinking. Anytime you're with this person, you shrink and you shrink. Now, what that can create is a power struggle within yourself and also then with this person, because then what starts to happen is as you bring forward more of this true, authentic part of yourself, this power struggle can start with this person, because the power dynamic was what was causing you to shrink in the first place. So then this person might not be happy with this new version of who you are, because that's not who you've been and that's not how the relationship worked. So power struggles are very likely to be occurring with this moon. And just confronting deeper shadow parts that are stopping you from the next chapter, as I kind of already went over. And I think that's it. I think that's all I want to share about. This is really kind of a feeling right now of a calling to step into your authentic power, however that looks for you, and not be so compliant, not focus your life around people pleasing, and instead bring out the edges, bring out the weird, bring out the things that make you who you are. And that's where your power comes from, is the places that you hide. These cars are so loud here. The places that you hide are the places that make you authentically you and bring your power forward. The places that make other people uncomfortable tend to be the power that is unique to you. And so take that for whatever it means to you. And thank you so much for sitting with me today and bearing with me as I get started on this channel, seeing what comes up. I'll also likely be starting to offer energy readings one-on-one for anybody interested, but that's not happening quite yet, so maybe I shouldn't mention it, but I just did, so that's where we're at. Okay, I hope you have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me. Sending love.